You woke up this morning and reached for your phone before your feet touched the floor. Before you said a single word to anyone, before you thought a single thought of your own, you handed your attention to an algorithm. That algorithm was designed by teams of engineers whose one job is to make sure you cannot stop. Here's what that costs you. The first 30 minutes of your day set the neurological tone for everything that follows. When you flood your brain with notifications on waking, you spike cortisol, fragment your working memory, and prime your prefrontal cortex for reactive thinking rather than deliberate thinking. You've essentially handed the steering wheel over before you even opened your eyes. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how a Roman emperor who ran the largest empire on Earth, bombarded daily with military crises, political threats, and thousands of demands on his time, protected his mind from precisely this kind of assault. And more importantly, I'm going to give you a specific 3-step morning protocol drawn directly from his practice that you can use starting tomorrow. The man is Marcus Aurelius. The year is 170 AD. He's camped on the frozen banks of the Danube River, commanding a campaign against the Marcomannic tribes, managing a plague that has already killed millions, and holding together a Roman Empire fracturing at every seam. And every single morning, before any of that chaos reached him, he sat down and wrote. What he wrote wasn't a journal of events. It was a deliberate mental rehearsal, a practice of preloading his mind with the right thoughts before the world could preload it with the wrong ones. He wrote things like, when you wake, say to yourself, today I will meet interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. He wasn't being pessimistic. He was being armored. That practice has a name. The Stoics called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. And in 2026, it is the most powerful psychological tool you've never applied to your phone. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, that phrase is going to mean something completely concrete and practical to you. But first, let's be precise about what is actually happening inside your brain when you pick up your phone, because this isn't a metaphor about distraction. This is structural neurology. And once you understand the mechanism, the Stoic solution stops sounding like philosophy and starts sounding like neuroscience. Every notification your phone delivers triggers a small dopamine response. Dopamine is your brain's anticipation chemical. It fires not when you receive a reward, but when you anticipate one. The notification sound or vibration is a signal that a reward might be coming. Your brain releases dopamine before you even see what the notification says. That's the hook. Here is where it gets serious. When you repeatedly spike dopamine through low-effort sources like phone notifications, your brain does something ruthlessly efficient. It downregulates its dopamine receptors. It makes you less sensitive to dopamine across the board. Activities that used to feel satisfying, a long walk, a conversation, reading a book, now feel flat, dull, not worth the effort. And the attention damage compounds this. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for sustained concentration, long-term planning, and impulse control, physically weakens under chronic fragmented attention. Studies from the University of California, Irvine found it takes an average of 23 minutes to fully regain deep focus after a single interruption. Most people interrupt themselves dozens of times per hour. So we are not talking about being slightly less productive. We are talking about a progressive erosion of your capacity to think deeply at all. The ability to sit with a hard problem, to tolerate ambiguity, to delay gratification. These are not personality traits. They are cognitive muscles. And right now, most people are letting them atrophy in real time. Now here's the question that changes everything, and this is what I want you to hold in your mind for the rest of this video. Marcus Aurelius faced the ancient equivalent of this exact problem. He didn't have a smartphone, but he had something functionally identical, an empire of 1,000,000 voices, each one competing for his attention, each one urgent, each one insisting he respond right now. How did he not lose his mind? The answer is not that he was born disciplined. The Meditations, his private journal, never intended for publication, are full of evidence that Marcus Aurelius struggled constantly. He writes reminders to himself to stop being distracted. He lectures himself against indulging complaints. He is coaching himself, page after page, the way a trainer coaches an athlete. He was not naturally stoic. He practiced stoicism. The Stoic school he followed had a precise diagnosis for what was happening to him and what is happening to you. The term is prosoche, meaning attention, specifically attention to your own ruling faculty, what the Stoics called the hegemonikon. Your hegemonikon is the inner command center, your capacity to judge, choose, and direct your life. The central Stoic claim is that this faculty is the only thing that is truly yours, and it is exactly what your phone is targeting. Epictetus, the former slave who became the most influential Stoic teacher in Rome, said this: "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." Most people read that as passive acceptance. It is the opposite. It is a description of radical attention control, directing your mind deliberately rather than letting external events direct it. Here is the formal Stoic principle we are working with: premeditatio malorum, the deliberate, advanced rehearsal of difficulties before they occur. The practice works by pre-activating your rational response before the emotional trigger hits. When you've already thought clearly about what you're about to face, the face of the difficulty loses its power to hijack you. You've already chosen your response. The event just confirms it. The untrained mind, which is what most of us are running on, operates in reactive mode. A notification arrives, and before you've made any conscious choice, you've already picked up the phone. The behavior precedes the decision. You are being pulled by association and reflex, not led by intention. Neuroscientists call this stimulus-driven attention. The Stoics called it living like a slave. The Stoic mind, the trained mind, operates in what psychologists now call goal-directed attention. You decide in advance what deserves your focus. When the stimulus arrives, you've already made the call. The notification appears, and you have a practiced response ready. Not suppression, not willpower, a pre-decided choice. That is the entire game, and Marcus Aurelius was doing it every morning at dawn on the banks of the Danube. Let's get concrete about what his morning practice actually looked like. According to both the meditations and what we know from Stoic practice of the era, Marcus began each day with philosophical exercise before engaging any external demand. He would remind himself of what kind of people he would encounter that day: difficult, ungrateful, self-interested, not to complain about it, but to preload his mind with the correct response before the first difficult person arrived. He would also remind himself of his core commitments: justice, reason, restraint, courage, not as inspirational slogans, but as operational instructions. Think of it as the difference between having a fire drill after the fire starts versus before. The preloading is everything. By the time the chaos arrived, Marcus Aurelius had already decided who he was going to be inside it. Now here is the critical historical detail that makes this real. Marcus Aurelius maintained this practice for the last decade of his life during one of the most sustained military campaigns in Roman history. The Marcomanni Wars stretched from roughly 166 to 180 AD, 14 years of near-constant campaigning, plague, and political instability. The meditations were largely written during this period. His philosophical practice was not a luxury for peaceful times. It was a weapon for impossible ones. Here's the bridge question that should be landing for you right now. If Marcus Aurelius needed a deliberate morning practice to protect his attention from the chaos of running an empire, what does your morning look like before you face your particular chaos? And be honest, because most people's answer is, I reach for my phone. So here's what you actually do about it. We are moving into the application phase, and I'm going to give you 3 specific steps. Not habits you build over months, not apps you need to download. 3 things you can do starting tomorrow morning that directly apply Stoic premeditatio malorum to your specific relationship with your phone. Each one has a name, a mechanism, and an exact implementation. Step 1 is called the Stoic anchor. Here's the problem it solves. Your phone wins in the morning because it gets there first. It fills the silence before your conscious mind has established any direction. The Stoic anchor solves this by creating a 5-minute pre-phone ritual that is non-negotiable. Before you touch your device, you read or recite one Stoic passage, not as inspiration, but as a mental set point. The exact passage doesn't matter as much as the consistency. Marcus Aurelius used his own writing. You can use his. A line like, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," isn't decoration. It is a literal instruction to your prefrontal cortex about where authority sits this morning. You are preloading the governing principle before the notifications load their governing principle. One of you gets to go first. Make it you. The implementation is simple. Your phone charges outside your bedroom. You keep a small physical card or notebook on your nightstand with a single Stoic line on it. When you wake, you read it before you stand up. 5 seconds of actual reading. That's the anchor. The sequence matters. Anchor first, phone second. Every morning without exception. The consistency is the practice. Step 2 is the notification premeditatio. This is premeditatio malorum applied directly to your phone's pull. Here's the mechanism. Your brain responds to notifications with a dopamine spike because they are unpredictable. Variable reward. The same reason slot machines are addictive. The way you break the addiction is by pre-deciding your response before the stimulus arrives, removing the variable from the equation. Here's the exercise. Each morning, before you check your phone, take 90 seconds to mentally rehearse the following. And I mean actually do this, not just nod at it. Say to yourself, "Today my phone will deliver things that feel urgent but are not. It will show me things that trigger comparison, anxiety, and outrage. I will feel the pull to respond immediately. I have already decided. I will check deliberately at set times, not reactively." You are running the scenario in advance. Then, and this is the operational piece, you set 2 or 3 specific check windows for your phone during the day, not constant availability. Scheduled access. Marcus Aurelius didn't receive every petitioner the moment they arrived at the palace. He had structured time for audiences. You need structured time for your digital audiences. The rest of the time, the door is closed. This is not radical, it is just governance. Step 3 is the attention audit. This is the evening component, the closing bracket to your morning anchor, and it is where the data accumulates that makes the practice self-reinforcing. The Stoics called this the evening examination, and both Marcus Aurelius and Seneca describe versions of it. The question you are asking is specific. Where did my attention go today that I did not choose? You take 3 minutes, literally 3 minutes, set a timer, and you write down 3 moments today when your phone pulled your attention somewhere you had not decided to go. Not to judge yourself, to see the pattern, because the Stoics understood that you cannot change what you cannot observe. Prosoksh, attention to your own ruling faculty, requires that you actually look at where the faculty has been wandering. After 2 weeks of this audit, something happens that no app can replicate. You start to see your own specific triggers. The notification that always pulls you in. The time of day when your resistance is lowest. The emotional state, boredom, anxiety, loneliness, that sends you to the phone reflexively. Once you see the pattern clearly, you can premeditate against it specifically. The premeditation becomes precise, targeted, yours. Let's close with the thing Marcus Aurelius understood that most productivity advice misses entirely. He was not trying to eliminate difficulty. He was not trying to live in a world without demands on his attention. He knew the Danube campaign wasn't going to end. He knew more petitioners would come. He knew the empire would keep generating crises. His goal was not a calmer world. His goal was a more governed mind within the world he actually had. Your phone is not going anywhere. The notifications will keep coming. The algorithms will get more sophisticated, not less. Trying to win by willpower alone, by just resisting the pull in the moment, is fighting the most well-funded behavioral science apparatus in human history with nothing but good intentions. Premeditatio malorum says, stop trying to be stronger than the stimulus. Be earlier than it. Decide before it arrives. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 AD, still on campaign, still writing in his journal. He never finished the meditations. There was no final chapter, no triumphant resolution. Just a man, every morning, choosing deliberately who he was going to be before the world made that choice for him. That is all Stoicism asks. That is all any of us can actually do. Choose first. Choose deliberately. Every morning. The 3 steps: Stoic anchor before you touch your phone, notification premeditatio as a 90-second morning rehearsal, and the evening attention audit to make your practice data-driven and specific. None of these require perfect discipline. All of them require starting tomorrow. The meditations have been in print for nearly 2,000 years because what Marcus Aurelius figured out in a military tent on the Danube turns out to be exactly what we need sitting in our bedrooms in 2026. If this video shifted something for you, the next step is simple. Write 1 Stoic line on a piece of paper tonight and put it on your nightstand. That's the whole assignment. 1 sentence. Tomorrow morning, read it before you check your phone. That's the first domino. And if you want to go deeper into how the Stoics built unbreakable attention across a lifetime, not just a morning, that's exactly what the next video in this series covers.